Hi everyone, nice to see you again. Welcome back to the workshop, and today I'm going to do a follow-up video to Talky Talk, which seems to go down quite well. And what I'm going to do in this video, and maybe even try and make it into a more regular series, is to run a video vlog from the workshop or from wherever I'm filming, really just to explain a few things, perhaps in just trying to think of the best way of describing this, in a sequence which becomes a regular thing, a format if you like. So in this one I particularly wanted to answer a few questions because there's quite a few things that Talk brought up. Some of those are decent technical questions, some are about obviously my intentions about the boat and the blog. So I thought I'd run through those in a sequence, and like last time layer a few other shots and videos over the talk so that I just don't sit here as a talking head, which I think is the worst thing to do with video. So the first thing on the list today, got my notebook with me this time. A quick comment about the last video, Talky Talk. It was a completely unscripted video, which is why it's strangely long, strangely messy and sort of circuitous. And it's not the way I normally think and write, because my main output for the last 5 years has been the written blog called Dirty Wet Dog, which you can find a link to on the banner on the YouTube video site. As of this week, I'm 5 years in to that, and 750 written blog posts. So there's quite a body of work there, and often I refer to posts that I've written in the past, and I post a lot of those onto social media. So they often appear once a week or twice a week on sailing, on Pocket Yachts Trader Sailors, on the John Welsford group, and other blogs. So if you're interested in sailing to the extent of wanting to read stuff, then that's my main source of kind of output really. And up until now my video channel didn't really exist, and then only recently have I taken it a lot more seriously. And for example, Talk I was really surprised when on the day I scheduled it went to 850, I think it's 900, I think it's heading towards 1,000 views at the moment, and that's in the first couple of days. That kind of thing has never happened before. If a video of mine gets 200 or 300 views, I'm really pleased. That's all I've been expecting, and I think mainly because my blog output, that's my written output, if a blog post gets 100 to 200 posts, that is really extraordinary. I think people generally don't particularly want to read nowadays, so it's possible that I've been working in the wrong genre for the last 5 years, and that it's possibly true that where I need to put the work is into my video work, because that will make a lot more sense when I go out on the water. It's a wholly visual experience being on the water. It's not a static thing. I think film captures it, certainly under a good videographer, far better than any writing can do, even if it's really good writing. So then onto the job list for today. Again, it's a really nice day, sun's going in and out, it's really warm out there, it's a bit cooler in the workshop, and I've been doing some jobs, and I'll show you some of the jobs that's going on the boat, and I think that I'll try and make that a regular thing, which is once a week, just quick trot around the boat, show you what jobs have happened, what needs to happen next, and that's the kind of video vlog feature. Today, first main thing is I just want to give some thanks. The first thanks is that, almost jokingly, I put a link on my channel to the Give Me a Coffee site, which I've seen other people use. I thought, oh, that'd be nice. Maybe people will want to contribute a small amount to the build and the running of the blog, and etc, etc. And I thought I'd just give it a try. And I was really shocked when the first person actually sent me or contributed a copy. So thank you, Steve. That was very, very, very kind. I almost wasn't expecting it, just really nice. So that's that's point number one. And the second thanks is to all the people who've just come and watched the recent videos. So that's from Talky Talk back through the rigging videos, the rollout video, Cuddy video, whatever. I do appreciate it, actually, because what it means with views is, as my views go up, I slowly get towards the point where I might be able to monetize the blog and maybe make a very small income from it, which will really help, not so much with the boat, but it's with all the filming and video and blogging side, because something I'm going to need in a few months' time is new blogging cameras for being out on the water, that even GoPros. And one day we're really going to need a new computer here, because the night that I did the film video, Talky Talk, I sat and edited it, fine, it seemed quite a long video. I've never done anything that long, but I had to sit up with it for 6 hours because we have a really poor internet connection here, and the computer sometimes just gives up and says, I can't do that. So I sat up with it all night. It was 6 hours, it's rendering and uploading. At some point, we're really going to have a better computer, and I'm going to have to kick BT around just to say, look, I just really need a better broadband connection, because I'm actually working online now. So that's funny. So that's the second thing. And then the third thanks is to the people who respond, who engage. I think it's absolutely wonderful. I get it to some extent with social media, a little bit on the sailing site, a bit on the Pocket Yachts group, and a lot from John Welsford's site, because I think that's where the real interest is about the Pathfinder. It's really nice to have that, the little conversations developing, and I do enjoy that. So that's a little bit of a segue into the question I thought I'd like to deal with today, and the question was, are you thinking about a solar power system for the boat? And the answer is yes. Now I think if my memory is working properly, it probably isn't, that I've actually written about this in my blog post. I think that appears before this one comes out, but I thought I'd better cover it on video, because then it gives some idea of another part of the development of the boat towards being an expedition boat. So we'll quickly just take a look outside at how that's intended to work, and the work that I've done for it so far. That's making provision for an electrical system, solar panels, wiring, and all the guff that goes with it. Right, session 2 or take 2. So today so far I've had to change the battery twice. I think one battery is dying, and I had to quite quickly go and empty the SD card, because the tiny little SD card in this camera at the moment was completely full. I think I'm going to have to go and buy a bigger one from Tesco this week. So jobs. So last week in Talk, I briefly covered the job that I was doing, the main job that I was doing that week, and that was finishing the centre compartments and the battery compartment. So I just showed taking that unfinished bulkhead out, taking the battery box out. I finished those during the week. I bonded the central bulkhead in, that's all epoxied in and screwed in, and that whole compartment, or the storage part of that compartment is all painted out, and the floor bearer is in. And just show you now, that's putting the central compartment panel back in, and at the same time that I also cut out for the small access hatches for the plastic hatches. This week I'll put those in once I get some fasteners for those, and get some more Sikaflex and just bog those in, and that's done. And that will become one of the main storage compartments in the boat. So on my long trips, that will become, I know that there'll be spares, tools, heavy food, so that's the main larder will go in there. Potentially other water, although water storage is something I'm working on separately. So take 2 or session 2. Again, second go at doing this. The camera battery just died, so I changed that, and the SD card just filled up, so I've changed that. So I went and had a cup of coffee as well. Back to the the story and back to the job. In the Talk video, I made reference to the RNLI statistic that shows that in England and Wales, certainly the largest number of RNLI call-outs are due to machinery failure. That's what they call basically engine failure, someone's engine packing up at sea and having to be towed in. And as I said last week, I had one engine failure in Liberty where the outboard somebody packed up, and I dealt with it. And interestingly, I had a similar engine failure in the old Gaffer that I owned a few years ago, and that ended up with a really nasty little situation, stuck in Chichester Harbour with the anchor stuck as well. And I wrote about that in the blog. I might put a link in because that's quite an interesting story. But where it was going was to the fact that engines are a problem, or can be a problem. You really have to do the maintenance, otherwise they're going to let you down. But with this boat, I knew what I wanted in the expedition features of the boat was to do the expedition without an engine and to rely on sails, anchors and oars. And what I'm intending to do is, when I need to, is to row the boat short distance. It isn't a rowing boat, all right? It's bigger, heavier and wider than a ideal rowing shape, but it's got a pair of 10-foot oars on there, and I'm hoping to be able to row it to manoeuvre it, and for example manoeuvre it on a tide and get some distance. And the main thing I'm thinking of is using a single oar technique, which is push rowing in the Japanese style, just on one oar. I don't know whether that will work or not. And a third technique, which is the Breton technique particularly, is to stand and scull the boat facing backwards with the classic sculling action. I have sculled in the past, but I can't remember how to do it, but I'm just going to have to learn again. And that seems to be a very efficient way of being able to move a boat, certainly when you can't get the oars out over the side of the boat, because then the whole thing is it's 20 feet wide. It's a big old thing. But that's kind of slightly gets around the engine problem as well, is that oars are cheap, engines are expensive, engines are unreliable, oars are extremely reliable unless you break one. It's not going to happen, is it? So that's another part of the expedition feature of the boat. And today what I want to do is I just want to return to my little talk about the difference between day boat and expedition boat, because I want to cover that in more detail, one blog at a time. And this point in this video, I just want to talk about one other major feature that changes this boat from a day boat to the expedition boat, which I really want to develop. In Talk, I said that there's perhaps a big difference between day boats and expedition boats, and that's a bit loose when you consider there's no such kind of definition really of an expedition boat, and yet we know what a day boat is like. The first thing I'd kind of like to point out is that both the designer and other groups, people who think about this, have covered it really well in other videos. John Welsford, for example, was hosted by, I think it was Roger Barnes of the Dinghy Cruising Association, and John set out his definitions of what small boats, if you like, are. So I think he said that the first type is the kind of thing that you race around the harbour, and it's great for that, but not really any good for cruising. And then there's a general purpose kind of dinghy that's it's good for going out and just enjoying the water for the day. And in that respect, I'd say, well, perhaps that's something like an English Wayfarer, which are famous, well-known multi-use day boats. But then you need to jump to a whole different level with expedition boats, and Pathfinder isn't, I think, originally intended as an expedition boat, but it's got the size to kind of deal with it. Now, in his more recent designs, John has done a beautiful new boat, which I kind of regret having not built myself, which is called Long Steps. Now that boat it's longer, so I think it's 19.5 feet rather than 17 for this one. It's slimmer. It's got a cuddy and it's got a standing, so I think a balance lug rig, and it's intended also as, you know, a rowing boat. So it's quite big, but apparently rows really well because it's slimmer, so the proportions are different. And it's possible that that boat would have been a better, you know, build for my expedition and my project, but the problem here is the length could have been over what we could easily get in and out of the drive and out onto the road, and that would be a real ball ache if, you know, I got the boat built. You know, I was up to this stage and then found we just couldn't get it out. So I've got Pathfinder, and I'm modifying it towards being an expedition boat, and today I thought, okay, just talk about one of the features which I think really does make it go towards an expedition boat. So one of the three main differences between my boat and a standard boat, which I built into the boat in the second year, is that my boat has a hard cuddy. That's not to plans. What John has done in the standard plans is he's shown the way to build a small cabin on the boat, and I thought, well, that was possible, and in fact it was the cabin version, which I think is it's a boat in America, and I'm just trying to think of the name of the owner because it's known as so-and-so's boat. Can't remember. Beautiful little blue and white Pathfinder with a lovely little cabin, gorgeous looking little boat. And I thought, well, that's kind of what I want, but what I really want is an open backed cuddy, and that's something you can just get into and get out of really easily, and that two people can sit in their backs against the side of the boat, heads just under the, you know, coach roof, out of the wind, out of the rain, make a drink, make a meal, and that's hard shelter. In fact, one person can actually sleep under there with, you know, completely covered by the shelter, you know, feet up in the bow space, and your head is still under the cuddy. So that's the major feature. So this is a little bit of a look around at the build process, and then the, you know, video sort of look around as to, you know, how that works. So that's really one of the major expedition features, is that it shelters the middle of the boat. You can get into it and you can rest, and you can make a hot drink and a meal, and if someone wants to, they can sleep up there as well. And the main sleep area for the boat is actually going to be the cockpit when it's covered, but that's really only viable, you know, at anchor and under camp. And so the second part of the development of shelter for the boat is to be something like Howard Rice's boat, Southern Cross, where he builds an entire tent for the boat, which he can rig very easily. And I'm kind of learning my way around building something of that complexity in canvas, but I've got several stages to go before I get there. And my normal boat camp is going to be probably more like a baker tent, and at the moment all it is a tarp, you know, slung between the mast and the back of the boat, and a plastic poly tarp over it to keep the rain off. And at the moment that's all it's going to get. But you can see in the future, you know, towards expedition boat is better shelter, because you know, even my experience of doing cross-channel trips in a small cabin boat like the Liberty in April, which is in 2019, you know, desperately cold, very dynamic, I was very sick, and I had quite a rough time. So I thought, okay, yeah, that's a kind of lesson learnt about being out in small boats. Is the second part, or third part, is yes, you need ballast, yes, you need communication, and you need shelter. So shelter is the next major thing that I wanted to point out as being a feature of expedition boats.